Hey everyone, I will never get over the enormous number of examples of bad journalism associated with reporting of the quest to build a stadium for the Oakland Raiders in Oakland, let alone Carson. This is the latest example. It's right here in the San Francisco Chronicle. That's me because that caught my attention. Because it was on Twitter here, and of course the person recognized me and tagged my Twitter account. But at any rate, the author who wrote that is someone whose name I will not mention because she worked for the East Bay Express a few years ago, called me and asked questions about what I do that weren't even properly reported at all. And I explained to her, don't ever contact me again. I have no respect for this person's work at all. In this instance, hey, not only that, they identified Randy in the picture here, but of course didn't bother to identify me. Any smart person who's paid attention to this story would say, Zinni is close to Libby. Zinni worked for 2 of the last 5 mayors of Oakland. Zinni has a close relationship with the NFL. I wonder what they're talking about. Well, I'll tell you. I said to Libby then, I said it to her as far back as December of a year ago, and I said it to her on May 17th of this year, one day before the NFL Spring League meeting held in San Francisco at the Ritz-Carlton, that if she wants a privately financed stadium in her city, she needs to say so. And it is doable. This article would lead you to believe that mention of a lease revenue bond issue automatically means that the city and the county has to pay for it. Folks, if you believe that, I'm going to curse right now, you're a fucking fool. Bond deals are as different as the stadiums in the cities they are in. Of course, there are common elements, but there are common elements in everything, like human beings, for example. But it doesn't mean that we're not unique. Let me give you one hallmark example of what I'm talking about, and then I'll add another. Reliance Stadium cost approximately $1.4 billion to build, actually a little less than that, but I digress. In 2009, the bonds that were floated to build that defaulted after the stock market crash. The bond underwriter went to the city of Houston and to Harris County and attempted to bully them through the media into paying the default on those bonds. It did not work, that tactic. The city and the county said, you know what, we're not contractually on the hook for those losses. You're going to have to deal with it yourself. And so the bond insurance company did. They restructured the bonds. The taxpayers in Texas, in Harris County, and city of Houston had no idea what was going on because they were not contractually responsible at all. It's called a deal. It's a contract, an agreement between you and me. Here's another example, one that people don't write about because, as I said, the meeting with the mayor, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, and her chief of staff last Friday, people only pay attention to the bad news and they don't do their own research. The Warrior bond issue, which has performed very well, the one that was floated to rebuild, well, basically entirely rebuild the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Arena, which we now call Oracle Arena for the Golden State Warriors, was written in such a way that if the bonds had defaulted, the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda could have said to the Oakland Alameda County Joint Powers Authority, look, you are responsible for your bond issue. We don't have to help you. Read it. Read the bond issue, 1996 Series A bond issue. Read the document in its entirety. Read it carefully. Read it closely. Read it more than once. The language is there. If you're going to write about these deals, know the deals. Know the truth. Crap like this is precisely that. It's crap. where a journalist goes to some sports professor that has an axe to grind regarding what they perceive as public financing based on their own limited knowledge regarding deals and their access to the press. And they collectively spew out bullshit upon bullshit upon bullshit. That's what that is. Okay? The bottom line is that there are examples of stadiums being planned right now that call for no public subsidy. Like, for example, the one that the Raiders have focused on in Carson in conjunction with the San Diego Chargers. If you bother to read the initiative that was approved by the city of Carson earlier this year, you will find the language that Carson does not want to pay a dime for any cost overruns or bond defaults. It's right there. You will also find media language that Tim Romer of Goldman Sachs has explained, who is the managing director and the person who is managing the financing for the Carson Stadium, has explained that cost overruns will not be borne by the public. You would think that the Chronicle reporter would bother to do research regarding Carson and say, hey, if Carson can do it, it's certainly possible that Oakland can do it too, right? But no, not at all. This person is committed to this pseudo know-it-all stuff, which is completely annoying to those of us who really do know what we're talking about with respect to these matters, and then spews out crap like that and isn't going to clean it up at all, because neither she nor her editor or editors care. That's the world we live in today in the Bay Area with this crappy journalism. Excuse me, I can't even call it journalism. I'm not a journalist, I'm a blogger. That's why I don't run around calling myself a journalist. Crap like that. An Oakland Raiders stadium can be done privately financed. If you have to remember something again, a deal is a contract between you and me. I could structure a deal such that if the bonds default, then various parts, and let's say the extreme worst case, depending on the level of default, the various parts of this stadium are sold off around the world for scrap. Or it's demolished, the land is sold for another use. There are a number of scenarios that can happen. You ever watch Wall Street? The Wall Street one with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen, where Michael Douglas played the famous character Gordon Gekko, and Charlie Sheen was Bud Fox, who became CEO of Blue Star and had what was called the shortest executive career since that Pope who got poisoned. There's a great scene in Wall Street that you should check out. And it has to do with a meeting on the street regarding the dissolution of Blue Star after its junk bonds are sold. And the idea basically, as one person in this meeting at this large conference room with this equally large table said, the street will wind up owning Blue Star. You've got the Beasley brothers ready to build condos where the runways are. You've got planes ready to be sold to another country, and so on, and so on, and so on. They sell them to get the money, to pay the difference on the bonds. They take that difference and they run off with it, just as an example. In those examples, it had nothing to do with a government losing money. There are examples of large private placement deals in sports. The San Francisco Giants, which this reporter could have looked at but did not do. The St. Louis Cardinals, which this reporter could have looked at but did not do. Private placement deals for the construction of stadiums. But in the Bay Area, we have these so-called journalists who really contaminated the information pool regarding the matter of building the stadium for the Raiders and for the Oakland A's, and continue to do so to this day. Almost unchecked. But hey, I've got to chime in since they used a picture with me in it and didn't even bother to identify me, although they knew damn well who I was and am.